Le sprinkler techno.
So one of the things we didn't touch on, but this is like the really close to my heart, is more around defense in depth. And defense in depth is taking that software security, realm, but applying it even broader, because so many of the vulnerabilities or security incidents come from inside actors, right? Whether it's even a mistake, like just an accident, it doesn't actually mean they have to be malicious. They could actually just go in, and because somebody didn't take care to like restrict their permissions, right, to do a proper permissions modeling, they go in, they have permissions they shouldn't have, and oops, they go and delete something, right? And it brings, I don't know, whatever, they could delete a bunch of users or whatever. So that also happens. And it's not to say that all of these security events are from malicious actors. It doesn't mean every internal person is malicious. So what defense in depth is kind of starting from that inner core and working out, right? And making sure that, like, so for one, if you're a software house, 100 people, you hire people in, right? They get credentials on your system, they get access to your GitLab or your GitHub or wherever your source code is, et cetera, et cetera. There's many tools there that you want to, or processes you want to keep in place to make sure that when you offboard them for whatever reason, they quit, you get rid of them, whatever, that all of those permissions get deleted, right? It seems very basic. But scale that out like to a 1,000-person company that maybe grew really fast and they never did it before, and there's someone manually going into GitHub and deleting accounts or deleting access to the repos. I mean, just something like that is like a very basic thing, but it's at the core, right? And you start to like move out from like the core to like everything else. So how it involves like how people log on, just everything from a defense in depth point of view. So you're starting not just looking at the software, but looking at how people access the software and trying to lock down every path. So basically, like if an external malicious actor gets in, they can't advance through the system because you've done this defense in depth where you've taken into account at every step. A lot of people who are not operating publicly accessible networks used to say, oh, but our stuff is inside a protected network, so we don't have to worry about the security of our box inside a protected network. But that's not really true, because you can have a sysadmin that might be able to go onto it who is a malicious actor, right, working for whoever, or somebody, like I said, just by accident goes and does something that brings down your network because they had access they shouldn't have had. So all of those all these building blocks that provide you with the defense in depth, and the kind of like the software security is one part of that. It's just one part of it. So it's quite holistic.
Well, the big things that have broken here in Quebec have often been inside actors, right?
Yeah.
And it's not remote people that found a bug in software. It's an entire process thing inside the house that wasn't managed.
A lot of times it's RBAC, right? Like people shouldn't have access to that part, or we've seen it a lot in the banking industry, right? Where people had access to things that they shouldn't have had access to, and with no oversight. Yeah,
exactly. And I've worked in places where security is so complicated that at some point people take shortcuts.
Yeah,
I know I've worked on systems where I did not have a password because it would have been like the 17th different password I would have had to get. And I was using somebody else's password because somebody gave it to me because he knows that it's going to be another 2 weeks before I get it. So I get that password, and at some point everything gets complicated. So here you get into like, try the best you can to keep it simple for everybody, right? I mean, if I have to know 5 or 6 passwords on the company I'm working at some point I'm going to be doing something stupid. It's going to be written down somewhere. It's going to be
put on the wiki,
something like that.
But exactly. So those are exactly the points, like when you talk about defense in depth, right? Like, it sounds crazy, but don't put passwords on the wiki. How many? But I would ask, like, your listeners, how many people have done that, right? It's because it's easy and we do these things, and there's a lack of security awareness, or there's a lack of even belief that, oh yeah, but that one password could be the difference between an external actor getting through and being able to advance an attack, or getting hit at a door and not being able to advance an attack. It could be that they, you know, got onto your Confluence page or whatever wiki, Doku wiki you're using, found a password and went and tried it, and it worked somewhere. And now they have another door to get in. So that's why defense in depth is so expensive, so important. But and probably expensive a little bit to put at all. You know, there's a cost to this, right? But one of the other things, just from a developer point of view, that I would really encourage is, you know, any sort of secrets, keys, passwords, whatever, should always be stored encrypted. How many people have them in, you know, especially for the headless accounts, right? The machine to machine, the automation, the test automation accounts, and all of this. A lot of times those credentials are stored in plain text, you know, in the source code itself, right?
Of course.
And that is a really bad practice.
I know.
Absolutely. And if you look, I mean, there was like 2 years ago, I think, one of the other banks in Canada got hit with that. I can't remember which one it was, if it was National. I don't want to, anyway, it was one of the banks. There were basically like hackers, right? Looking for source codes stored into some of the generally known source code repositories, right? That had credentials for CI machinery. So for Jenkins, they were looking for GitLab credentials, Jenkins credentials, anything like that, because they know if they can get in there, they can maybe start injecting code. They can start doing something, they can hijack, right? And they were specifically looking for credentials from financial institutions who are using, you know, all of our good automation practices and everything. So one of the things always, it's so easy to put the passwords in and the secrets and the keys and everything. They should always be stored separately, encrypted, using something like Ansible Vault, something like that. Really, really important.